Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hesed Sabbath Fellowship. We used to meet in St. Paul every Sabbath, and hopefully we will again. We'll see what happens with COVID-19. This is our third report on COVID-19 being a weaponized bioweapon. Whether it is or isn't, we should be researching it, and I believe based on jumping closer to the fourth seal, we should be looking at these things. So this is our third report, and it does make you wonder, why would a Messianic shul looking for the Messiah point to this? Because I want you to see where we are in the signs. So this is new. Normally, I've been citing Great Game India from India, and they are a research facility that publishes articles and have done some excellent research on COVID-19, proving that it may be a biological weapon. This is from Chinese sources, so anti-communist sources, but very Chinese. The report is done by Joshua Phillip, and he's from New York City, but you know what? He's employed by the Epoch Times, and they're a good source. They're anti-communist, which I would agree with. And so their comment on this is, why would the Communist Party of China lie? But they have for many, many times. First of all, the article starts out with citing the deaths and how many people are sick. It's 1.4 or 1.5 million people. And then this man is the host of Crossroads with the Epoch Times. And then also they're engaging in a disinformation campaign. And that is to prove that it came from a wet market and a fish market basically, instead of the Wuhan level 4 biohazard bio facility. So anyway, this report, and I would recommend, and I'll put a link down below. I'd recommend that you watch it. It's about an hour. At the very least, we can provide this as a package of information that will inform the entire world exactly where the virus came from and exactly what needs to be done going forward. At the very least, again, we should be more cautious when dealing with the Chinese Communist Party, especially at this time. Especially with the WHO also. We're seeing from this report that the WHO is essentially following the Chinese Communist Party's guidelines, and that this is from Gordon Chang in this article, and because the real disease here is communism. And so, once again, as always, I love the Chinese people. I had communist Chinese people stay with me in the 70s when I ran a foreign student house and at my university. Love them dearly, but can't stand communist Chinese leaders. They're totalitarian. So, as in all cases, let's take this article, let's try not to twist the Bible, let's try not to play around with prophecy, and let's try to keep it with real news, even though my news sources are quite bizarre. So, speaking of bizarre, Alex Jones, I don't ever cite him. I can't stand him as a human being. I believe he believes in a fake Jesus, a money Jesus. But anyway, the point is that this is an article that came from another source, and he's citing it. So the virus probably leaked from the Institute. It was not from an animal market in Wuhan. Basically, the Chinese city, it's an accident, but we realized that it probably came not from the market, but from tests that they were doing, studies that they were doing, and and so they're making the claim here that these scientists were infected after being sprayed with blood containing the virus and then passed it on to the local community. The Chinese communists were doing bat research. There's just no doubt about it. And it looks like the United States government, yes, Obama did this. He gave them $3.7 million to conduct SARS coronavirus research. Yeah, that's what's coming out now. Now, it's coming from the Daily Mail and Alex Jones. I don't know if I can trust either one of them, but it is intriguing to see this. And so they gave them a bunch of money to do SARS-related research, and they took the money and put it into bat research and came up with the perfect bioweapon that leaked out or was forced out. And so this is from Daily Mail. And so they were performing coronavirus experiments, no doubt about it, in the caves, many hundreds of miles away, brought that research back to Wuhan. They had the perfect scientists working on this. They sequenced it beautifully so that this bad virus that should not be able to pass on to human beings did pass on to human beings. And then there was an accident of some sort. And so this is an article from Daily Mail. Can we trust it? I don't know. but it looks like one more damaging piece of evidence. And how is China handling this? Stop blaming us. Yeah, that's what they're saying. Stop blaming us. So Matt Getz, who is a U.S. congressman, I believe from California, said, I'm disgusted to learn that for years the U.S. government has been funding dangerous and cruel animal experiments at the Wuhan Institute, which may have contributed to the global spread of the coronavirus, and the research in all their labs in China have virtually no oversight from U.S. authorities. So we gave them money and said, here, go research bats and come up with something. And they did. And they came up with COVID-19. So the picture in the middle, little tiny picture, shows Tedros bowing to Xi, the president of China. And that's kind of how the relationship is. It looks like every time China is being attacked on this, the WHO is defending them. And so China is constantly saying things like this: hasty and reckless allegations, such as naming China as the origin of an attempt to shift the blame before any scientific conclusion, is irresponsible and will definitely do harm to the international cooperation at this critical time. So as you can see the dog and the cat together, kind of like finding your spouse in bed with another person. Are you going to believe the evidence or your lying eyes? Because China is constantly going to tell you that you're not seeing anything at all. Now, another person that's weighed in on this is Sadhu Sundar Severaj. He's from India. I like the guy, but I'm very frustrated with the company that he keeps. He came out recently and said there's another pandemic coming. And let's be honest, for this to be the fourth seal, you need a quarter of the world's population, 1.94444.25 billion people to die. And it's not going to do that. It's not going to happen. So if that's the case, then something else needs to occur, or it needs to come back again. And it looks like the people are asymptomatic in South Korea right now, and they're testing positive again. So it may go into remission for a period of time and then pop up again if our immunities are compromised. And so it could be reactivated in people. But I'm still thinking the COVID-19 is not that virus. So Sadhu is saying there's another virus coming, but who does Sadhu party with? And that is Jennifer LeClaire, who is just absolutely bonkers. She believes that you can learn how to be a prophet, so you don't really need God to give you prophecy. No, no, no. You can just learn how to do it. Just practice. Practice makes perfect. And then Jeremiah Johnson, who's just as problematic. But then, unfortunately, Sadhu cited this guy, Chuck Pierce, on the right-hand side. And Chuck is absolutely goofy. I mean, he's friends with Sean Bolts. He's not directly related to that crazed man. Oh, why am I blanking on this name right now? Todd Bentley. Ugh, I don't even want to cite him. Todd Bentley is the guy that kicked people with tumors and said the God Spirit told him to kick those people. So I've never trusted Chuck Pierce. I've always thought that these were Klingons. These are people that are just trying to make a buck and claim, I get special words from the Lord, but do they or don't they? Or are they just making it up? They're really good at making stuff up, and they've got the prophet speak down. You know, they know how to do the weird speak where you add the emphasis at the right points and you sound like a prophet. Sadhu doesn't do that, but why is he citing these people? Okay, now it's so bad that even the New York Times is citing this and citing people. And of course, the first sources are going to be either pagan religions or the rapture ready crowd. Okay, so is the rapture today? Well, what day? When? So I'm a Messianic person from St. Paul, Minnesota. I am enamored with end times because I'm Messianic. Do you see it in the name? The Messiah returns. That's why we're Messianic. And so if I'm wrong, and there's a rapture, God bless you. I'm sorry. I'll apologize if there's a pre-trib rapture. But if it happens at the end, it's going to be horrible. So if these supposed rapture-ready experts are wrong, oh my, it's going to be hell. It's just going to be hell. So just keep that in mind. That's why I'm so interested in this, because that great deception will occur. So I think the signs are important to chronicle. I think it was important for me to notice February 11th, 2013, that lightning struck the Vatican twice. And so that was the day that Pope Benedict XVI told the cardinals that he would retire. And he was the first pope to do that in 600 years. And so lightning struck twice in St. Peter's Basilica. It's very interesting. Then on the other hand here, there was a blood moon over Rome last night. So that would have been the 12th of April, 2020. I don't normally cite Hal Turner because I think of him as a Nazi. He hates Jews. But it's interesting that he cites this weird omen of a blood moon, which is Joel chapter 2. This is Acts chapter 2. And then late in chapter 6 of Revelation, as we go through the seals, we see that the sun shall turn to sackcloth and the moon to blood before that coming day. So it's one more sign. And it shouldn't have turned because there was no eclipse occurring and there was no smoke from fires occurring. So it just turned blood red. Weird. Okay. This is someone that I cite because this is one more person that seems to be figuring it out. They're opening up their eyes, and so before you think that you're going to be raptured out, before anything bad happens, you should really be looking at the signs going on around you. She's saying that Jesus in Matthew 24 is synopsizing the first four seals. I'm saying the first six, and I'll show you that. And so I want you to be aware that this is coming from men and not from God. These are just signs that are occurring. And so, so just be aware of this, that there are others coming along and realizing that the seals can open beforehand. You'll find that 90% of the rapture people out there believe that the seals can't open until you're in the Great Tribulation. They're the birth pangs, guys. They're Matthew 24's birth pangs. So let's go through one more time with the four big signs of Matthew 24. The first one is polemos, which is war. You can see that in the top there, number one. Number two isn't listed in this particular Greek text, but it would be loimoi, okay, which would be plagues and things like that. And then limoi, which would be famines in most cases. And then number four is earthquakes. So that's one, two, three, four, big four, okay? And these are the beginning of the birth pangs. Then we look one more time. Battles and wars are like seal 2, okay? Drought is like seal 4. Earthquakes is like seal 6. So you can see he's making it sound like these are the seals, okay? And so once again, the Greek words are polemos, which would be wars, seal 2, limos or limo, which would be seal 4. Then loimos, which would be seal, well, it's kind of seal 4 again. And then seal 6 would be earthquakes. That's megaseismos. And we're getting some earthquakes. We'll see that later on. Once again, here's the big four coming in with Revelation chapter 6, the fourth seal. And you see number one, Ramphea. That is a supernatural sword from Yeshua's mouth that kills people. It kills people in the 70,000 people with King David. And then it also killed people with one of the prophets. So it can kill. Then Limo, there you can see it, number two. Thanatos, which is number three, which is just death. And then number four is way back over on the side there, Therion, which is biological warfare. It could be COVID-19 or it could be the next plague coming along. So those are the big four and the similarities. And again, the fourth seal should kill 1.944444444 billion deaths across the world. And so by that supernatural sword, that's the Ramphea, by Limo, which would be drought, and then Thanatos, which would be death, and then biological warfare, which could be more coming up, could be another one coming through. And so I'm working on this slide constantly just to update it so you can see seal 1, we should have already had that occur. Seal 2 would be to the east based on Zechariah directions, Zechariah 6. Then north for seal 3 as we see more plagues and drought and things like that. And then seal 4 would be to the south, and that should be where we are right now. The martyrdom comes next, then this great earthquake and figs falling from the sky for seal 6. And then there's that time frame during the tribulation, the first 3.5 years, where you'll have the half an hour of silence in heaven, and then that opens up the 7 trumpets and the shofars. Then, just before that occurs, just at the tail end of the 6th seal, you should see the 2 witnesses show up in Jerusalem during that time frame and start doing whatever they're going to do. The first 4 of the trumpets, they'll be calling down, and those are very natural and organic. Then the last 3 of the trumpets are the 3 woes. If you add the 3 woes together with the 7 bowls, you will come up with the last 10 judgments, which is like Egypt. And I'm arguing that the 2 witnesses show up before we go into the first 3.5 years, and they die just a little bit before the midpoint of the Great Tribulation or of the tribulation. And then the final 3.5 years would be the Great Tribulation, where the bowls are poured out. And I'm seeing that the Antichrist will show up. Really, he'll pop up beforehand. He's alive right now, but you won't notice that he's the guy until just before the bowls. So just about that point, you'll notice it. And so, I'll constantly work and update this, but that's pretty much how I see the times going through. And you have to know these times. You should be aware of these things because Paul warns us through Yeshua that, but in connection with the coming of our Lord, Yeshua the Messiah, and our gathering together to meet him, we ask you, brothers, not to be easily shaken in your thinking or anxious because of a spirit, believe it or not, a false spirit, or a spoken message, or a letter supposedly from us claiming that the day of the Lord, that big day, has already come. Don't let anyone deceive you in any way, for the day will not come until after the apostasy has come and that man who separates himself from the Torah has been revealed, the one destined for doom. That's the Antichrist. He will oppose himself to everything that people call a god or make an object of worship. He will put himself above them all, and that he will sit in the temple, the Naos of God, that's the Holy of Holies of God, and proclaim himself to be God. And once again, I'm arguing that that comes just at the midpoint of the Great Tribulation. And Daniel kind of states that too. And so that is that time frame. And so you can see him coming just at that midpoint and then going into the bowls right after that. So that seems to be what's going to occur. And that seems to be biblical. So I want you to know these things so that you won't become shaken or anxious. So that you'll know that we've gone through seal 1. Seal 2, we've gone through most of it. We see wars all over the place based on they started in Iraq. And then Seal 3, you're starting to see more of the pestilence from that. And then keep in mind the directions. So the four horsemen, you have to know your Zechariah 1 and 6 to be able to know Revelation 6 and where the horses are going, the directions of what they're doing. And then these signs just help you so that when you see this pink moon and the reddish moon over Rome, you'll know what things mean. Or the locusts that are popping up in East Africa. And they're going to be much worse than ever before. So you'll be able to know that's the 8th plague in Egypt. And so we should be going through a time of darkness. I truly believe we're probably going to have some darkness coming up at some point in time. It's going to be weird, guys. And then, so this is COVID-19 day 100, and that is that weird pinkish moon that was a large supermoon. And then it kind of confirms the cases from April 8th of all the people that are sick and dead. And so I want you to be aware of the signs because that'll help you to know where we are in the time clock. So once again, we're approaching Seal 4. I don't know if COVID-19 is Seal 4 or not, but it's a sign of it. And then Seal 5 is martyrdom, and then Seal 6 is burning figs falling from the sky, asteroids, meteorites, things like that, or an earthquake. And by the way, there's an interesting movie coming up with that 300 actor, and I'm blanking on the name of the British actor. They're based in Florida, and there's meteors falling from the sky. It's a rather frightening movie. I might actually watch that one. So that's the end of this video. I wanted you to watch this and understand so that you wouldn't be anxious and you'll know. So be blessed.